dive into authentic conversations about ourselves and our community, exploring topics that uplift and inspire us, from personal growth to social change. So grab your teacup and get ready to join the conversation. Started on Monday, right? And I mean, they hit it hard explosive. They started off with the security guard officer from the Intercontinental Hotel in LA, where the abusive video hit the scene, right? Took place at. They started with his testimony on Monday. They also had a escort testify as well. He said a lot of crazy things. Like, he said a lot of stuff that was going on as far as, like, how he came about to meet Diddy and Cassie. Diddy and Cassie sought him out through either Craigslist or Backpage, and got him to the place to do the things of whatever they were doing. A lot of it has to do with a lot of domination and submission, actual encounters that Diddy and Cassie did. Okay, so we're gonna jump right on in and get caught up on the Diddy trial, right? Let's see what's been going on, guys. How are you? If you guys know any updates, go ahead and drop those in the T chat, okay? Drop that in the T chat, and also your T cuts. So let's see. Independent has some live updates. Let's see what they are updating us on. Okay, hold on. Stop. I'm trying to pause it and nothing's coming up. Let me get my video up, right? It's early. Okay, I'm still getting my brain to function with my hands right now. Okay, so my brain's saying share and my hands were just sitting here. So let me make sure that I get my stream up. Come on. Okay, got it. Okay. So my computer's moving slow. Sorry. Okay. Give it some sound. That would be nice.
2016. A list of 190 celebrity names are once again gathering here at the Manhattan courthouse, where music mogul P. Diddy is on trial. His ex-girlfriend, singer Cassie Ventura, is the star witness in her former partner's sex trafficking trial. Diddy, real name Sean Combs, was caught on hotel surveillance attacking Cassie in 2016. A list of 190 celebrity names were shown to potential jurors. None of these celebrities are suspected of any wrongdoing, though each name is anticipated to be mentioned throughout the trial. A few of the names mentioned are Michael B. Jordan, who went on a date with
Michael B. Jordan. Oh my God, y'all. What's T on the Creed actor, y'all? What's T on the Sinners actor? Black Panther. What is tea?
Cassie Ventura in 2015. Mike Myers, the actor known for playing Austin Powers, was mentioned for a scene in his 2002 movie that makes a joking reference to Diddy. Kid Cudi, another possible romantic link to Ventura, as well as a potential link to a car explosion involving Combs. Kanye West, who released a song with Diddy back in March that also featured his 11-year-old daughter, North. While the
For 160 years, the Salvation Army has been standing strong, serving those in need.
Dabbling around with Cassie while she was still involved in some type of romantic way.
Unlikely to appear in court.
Goodness gracious, y'all. Okay, that was some tea. That was some tea. What else is going on? Let's get some explosive updates. Y'all know how we do it. Drop those teacups in the chat. We are coming in hot this morning, this Friday morning. I had to get in here early, y'all, because I took a couple of days off. Okay. So I heard some explosive testimony from Cassie about her freak offs with Diddy, right? I've been keeping you guys posted on up-to-date things as they come in. So make sure y'all go to my posts, shorts, okay? And take a look at some things, y'all. Let's get into what has been going on with Diddy. Diddy trial updates, y'all. What's going on? Cassie testimony. Ooh. Let's see. The defense claps back at Cassie. Cassie Ventura. Ooh. Sean Diddy. Live. Cassie questioned Diddy's legal team in sex trafficking. We're not going to tap in to long crime just yet. Ooh, they were live for 9 hours on Diddy. I've been seeing people go live for days straight, like they're not cutting off. I don't know what's going on. Hold on. Okay. Now we're up. Let me get into the stream. I don't know what was going on, guys. I don't know what's going on. Hold on. Okay. Hold on. So now we're back in the stream. Sorry, guys. Let me rewind. Thought you guys could hear, but not any sound coming out of the screen. Okay, let's get it. We are going to sip some tea and review P. Diddy on trial. The defense claps back at Cassie for her testimony, okay? Let's listen in and get updated on this tea.
Day 4 of Sean Diddy Combs' sex trafficking and racketeering trial got intense in a hurry as Diddy's ex-girlfriend Cassandra Ventura faced a blistering cross-examination with defense lawyers using old love texts and steamy messages to challenge her claims of horrifying abuse, from freak-offs to jealousy to burner phones phones. It all came out in court today, and I'm going to be speaking with our very own Elizabeth Milner to get the inside scoop, including a major witness who's set to take the stand next. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. The fourth day of testimony in Sean Diddy Combs' sex trafficking and racketeering trial turned explosive as his former girlfriend, Cassandra Ventura, faced quite aggressive cross-examination about her tumultuous 11-year relationship with Combs. The defense pushed back hard on Ventura's allegations that she was coerced and abused by the fallen mogul, showing jurors old text messages and emails where the two appeared to exchange loving words, even some pretty explicit plans for their so-called freak-offs, raises the question of consent or not. So to give us that up-close and personal account of every single gripping moment that happened inside that courtroom, we're going to bring back on Law and Crimes reporter Elizabeth Milner, who is in that courtroom once again. Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming on. So set the scene for us. What was the atmosphere in that courtroom like today? Was it tense when we're talking about cross-examination? Did it feel different than direct examination?
See this property on
Wow,
Craigslist?
Law and Crime Network are paying bills. We're getting caught up, y'all. Okay, we are sipping some tea. I know that it was explosive. As I was out running errands, I couldn't go live. I was listening in on a lot of the testimony and reading a lot of the things that are going on, being said on the stand. So this is going to be explosive, y'all. Grip y'all seats, hang on as tight as you can, because this is some shit that I was not ready to hear. I don't know about y'all, but I was not ready.
Yeah, for the most part, this was a day that a lot of us were anticipating. A lot of us were wondering, what is the defense going to have when it comes to this cross-examination? You know, the last couple of days while Cassie's been under direct examination, to me at least, just kind of watching her tone, watching how she answers these questions, she really kind of seemed very compelling. She felt like a compelling witness. So obviously, the defense's job is going to be to poke holes in this. Did you want to participate in these freak-offs? Did you have a way of helping set these up? Did you initiate wanting these freak-offs in some instances when Diddy was sick, or other instances as well, too? And so today was definitely a very highly anticipated day. As far as the tone just in the courtroom, I think a lot of people were just kind of wanting to know what was going to happen next. So as far as just who was inside that courtroom today, it looked a little different than it has, on day one and even a little bit into day two. In that, we had Karen Agnifilo inside that courtroom today. She is obviously married to Mark Agnifilo. You had Diddy's mother, Janice Combs, in the courtroom. His sons, Christian Combs, Quincy Brown, Justin Combs, all came into the courtroom today. Notably, the daughters, again, not inside that courtroom today. Chance's mother, who's been inside that courtroom, also wasn't there today. Neither was Justin's mother inside that courtroom. So it was a little different than we've seen, on prior days, especially for opening statements, as well as even into day two. As far as those who were there to support Cassie, it was still the same as it has been the other couple of days she's been testifying. Her husband, Alex Fine, was inside that courtroom. Cassie's brother was inside that courtroom, as well as Cassie's mother and her attorney, Doug Wigder. As far as even when Cassie came into the courtroom today, you would think that maybe she would appear nervous or just a little shaken, depending on, what to expect really from what the cross-examination would look like. But she appeared very cool, calm, and collected, just similar to how she has been on the stand these last couple of days. She just walked up to the witness stand. The judge reaffirmed that she is still under oath. And so she just sat there. And even when Ana Maria Esteveo was asking her question, she, for the most part, appeared cool, calm, and collective. Her tone was still the same, even during, as far as comparing it to her direct testimony, where, she was very soft-spoken. There were times, she wasn't saying yes or anything like that. Instead, she was saying yep or mm-hmm. And she just appeared, again, very soft-spoken. She appeared that she didn't seem nervous, at least from what I could see of her. Of course, there were some moments where you could kind of feel that she was uncomfortable, especially when it came to these graphic text messages that were being displayed, but she didn't feel comfortable necessarily reading them out loud. And it makes a lot of sense, right? This was, appeared that these were private messages between people who were dating, people who were together for a years-long period. But just keep in mind, even to now, she is married to somebody else. And, her husband was in that courtroom. And so I could tell that there was a little uncomfy moments when it came to especially some of those graphic tests or those graphic texts.
So as she's talking about the text messages, right? What are the text messages, guys? I sipped some tea on some of them. Some of them were alluding to the fact that Cassie was enjoying the freak offs. She was initiating freak offs. She was, asking for freak offs. She was, alluding to her wanting to engage in freak offs, even if Diddy's old ass was sitting there like, girl, I'm tired. We've been freaking off for a week. I'm tired, and Cassie would be like, get your ass up, pop, 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 and let's keep it popping, right? So, I believe that's what the, defense is trying to break down and, just tear apart on Cassie's side of the situation, because I saw text messages that were, released and published online where Cassie was saying things like she wanted freak offs.
Messages that were being displayed in court today. But as far as the tone goes, just overall, it appeared just kind of like another day in court. I'm assuming that, Cassie kind of knew what to expect as far as where the defense would go, what type of questions that they would ask her, knowing that they would try to poke holes into her credibility. But again, she appeared cool, calm and collected while on the stand. No emotional moments or anything like that. No points where she appeared visibly agitated or angry. Just, for the most part, asking clarifying questions. Can you repeat that? Can you ask it a different way? Can you talk about what time frame this was? Oh, I don't remember these text messages. And so that was kind of most of the tone throughout most of the cross-examination today.
Hey, everybody, this is a law and crime legal alert. Did you know that children are being diagnosed with serious conditions like type 2 diabetes? forthepeople.com/food or scan the QR code.
I think even when the text messages.
Dr. Box.
Okay, law and crime are paying a lot of bills this morning. So we are talking to T, y'all. Diddy. First week of the trials wrapping up today.
Analyzing them. A lot of them had direct focus onto the computer screen in front of them, just so that way they could read all the messages, even the more graphic, sexually explicit messages. I saw there were sometimes some jurors were doing, the tennis match look, where they were either looking at Cassie, who was on the witness stand, then looking at Ana Maria Estevao while she was asking the questions, kind of doing a back and forth. Meanwhile, some other jurors were just laser focused on Cassie and just what she had to say and how she responded to the cross-examination today. As far as Diddy goes, Diddy, just like every other day, is very much participating in his defense, very much so passing off notes to his defense attorneys to kind of hand over to Estevao, who was standing up doing the questioning. He very much so was intently looking at either Cassie or the exhibits in front of him, especially when it came to those sexually explicit text messages, or even just the text messages and the emails back and forth with one another. And so just like every other day, Diddy is very much so participating in his defense, because as the defense has pointed out a number of times, that Cassie is a very critical witness to the case. Mark Agnifilo said she is probably the most key witness in this case, somebody that, they wanted to make sure that they were doing a thorough cross-examination of her, because Diddy's life somewhat depends on this, because, they were making the point that he's facing a life sentence if he's convicted. And so they wanted to make sure that they were asking every single question that they needed to ask. Do I think that was necessarily accomplished? I'm sure we'll get to that in just a second. But for the most part, as far as Diddy goes today, he was definitely participating like usual.
Yeah, and look, she is the number one witness. What do I mean by that? She's the star witness. She starts at the start of this trial. I believe this case rises and falls with her testimony. She is making up a number of the counts that he's facing right now: racketeering, sex trafficking. Her testimony would help support those and also help support transportation to engage in prostitution. The prosecution needs her to testify, which is why I believe one of the reasons they wanted her to testify so early is because she's 8.5 months, 9 months pregnant. They got to make sure she gets on the stand before something happens. Now, you mentioned the text messages. This day was filled with text messages. Elizabeth, I'm going to ask you what we learned about these text messages. I'll leave it to you how graphic you want to get about them, if they're, I mean, depending upon what the value is. But what were the text messages? What were the value of the text messages? What was the defense doing with these text messages? And by the way, emails too. So communications between Combs and Ventura. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, it was a lot of messages today, a lot of things that were read inside that courtroom. First, starting off with messages that, first with Ana Maria Estevao asking Cassie, so you love Diddy? She said yes. And he loved you? She said yes. You called him Sean. You knew the real Sean. And Cassie said, can you repeat? And then along the lines answered the question that, you know, she knew the Sean that other people didn't see. When they started getting into the email correspondence and text correspondence, they went all the way back to 2008. One email that said, I'm a very lucky woman. And I'm going to kind of paraphrase this email because it was a lot going on. Cassie said, I'm a very lucky woman. I miss you and I fly wherever you needed me to. I love you. And then she signed it off Cass. They showed a 2009 email that Diddy had written to Cassie, and this was the baby girl and the pop email correspondent and nicknames that they had for one another. Diddy said, I love you so much. It makes me cry. And then Cassie responded, you hungry, pop. You know, and so I think what the defense was trying to do, at least with these initial messages, is just kind of show that there was love and there was affection there. But just think about these time frames and these dates. This was around the time that the two had first started dating, and I felt like it kind of played into what she had said under her direct testimony, that she did care about Diddy, that she did love him. She's been very honest about that, that that she felt like the two were in love, especially at the beginning of her relationship. There was one message from 2010. Cassie wrote, going to sleep so tomorrow will be faster, and kind of saying tomorrow will be faster so I can see you soon. Diddy responded, I love you so much. I never knew it could be like this. Cassie responded, I'm so happy. We're so in love. There was another message, this one from the year prior. Cassie saying, I love you so much. It made me feel like I can't wait until we just don't care anymore. And Cassie was pretty much saying that this was because she wanted to be open about the relationship, because the defense was trying to point out that Cassie and Diddy, for about a 2-year period, they weren't as open with their relationship, and that Cassie essentially just wanted to be public. Again, something that kind of corroborated her under direct testimony, where she said that she just, was in love with him and just wanted to be with him at all points, all the time. A lot of just I love you back and forth. Again, just kind of trying to establish that these two were in love, that it wasn't forced or fraud or coerced or anything like that. Then we get to
if it wasn't forced, it wasn't fraud, and it wasn't coerced, then it wasn't conspiracy and it wasn't trafficking, because those are the elements that make up conspiring to do a crime and trafficking. Once you got the crime going in motion, the people that are a part of the crime that orchestrated it and are now victims of it, if it was love, then how is it conspiring to sex traffic people?
Around August 5th of 2009, Diddy asked, when do you want to freak off? Cassie said, I'm ready to freak off, LOL. Diddy responded, you tell me the date, you choose. And then I'm paraphrasing right here. She had responded, I feel like a Friday would be best. Diddy responded, also paraphrasing here, Friday it is. Maybe we can get Jules here. Jules was an escort that they had used very often in their freak offs, according to her testimony. He was brought up a number of times, and notably, he was the escort that was in.
This is
all right, Law and Crime are paying bills, and so are we. Thank you so much, T Sippers, for listening to some more explosive updates as they're coming in on Diddy. Cassie wrapping up testimony. It's on the 5th day, full week of testimonies in the Diddy trial.
Inside that hotel room during the 2016 Intercontinental Hotel incident. There were other messages that went into, Diddy had a subject line that said, what are you thinking about? And then Cassie responded in a very kind of sexually explicit way that I'm not going to repeat on air. You could definitely feel like I was kind of peeking into what their history was like, especially in those intimate moments, and how the two would correspond about wanting to be with each other in an intimate way. And so a lot of those messages were displayed in front of the jury. The jury saw them. Us in the gallery, we saw these messages as well, too. There was a 2009 email that Diddy had wrote to Cassie saying, I want you to feel safe to let go. And Cassie wrote, I like that. I want to give you the same. In order to be more open with the things that we do in bed, I need to feel safe like home, like this is my husband. And this is the only man that will ever have this aggressive/sexual side of me. I'm nervous. I'm just the girlfriend that you get your fantasies off with, and that I just don't get that other part. And then she wrote ... anymore, at least. And she kind of, at least to me and my perspective, appeared a little apprehensive about doing these freak-offs. She was asked by the defense, do you have a fear that you guys wouldn't go public, you guys being Cassie and Diddy? And she said, I guess she thought about this. Again, this is around that 2009 timeframe when the two were still kind of under wraps there. But she said that the freak-offs were kind of an integral part of her relationship, and that essentially she just wanted more. There was a part where they had talked about her 21st birthday. Her 21st birthday is pretty important because that was the first time the two had kissed. That's the first time that she had kissed Diddy, because remember, she had met him 2 years prior to that time. She said that this was again at her birthday. Big names, like a name that we had seen in the People and Places list from jury selection. Dallas Austin was at her that birthday party. Britney Spears was at that birthday party, and they were all brought by Diddy. She was asked about her financial situation around that time, and she said essentially she was doing well. She was, modeling. She was doing other things, and then they kind of touched base a little bit about her prior relationship even before Diddy, and that was with a producer named Ryan Leslie. And around this time frame, because Cassie was still in a relationship with Ryan at this time, the defense was trying to paint it as, when you had met Ryan, he was 10 years older than you at this point of time. And I had kind of looked it up. Diddy and Ryan Leslie aren't necessarily close in age. I think Ryan Leslie's still in his mid-40s, whereas Diddy's in his mid-50s. So there's a little bit there, but I could kind of see where the defense was trying to go and try to paint it as that you kind of get with older producers, with older men that could possibly kind of help you with your career. Then we saw an email from 2007 where Cassie had wrote, we really had 1 week of each other just together, and I can say it's been the best and the worst. The defense asked her about her relationship with Diddy. Has it always been complicated? And she kind of affirmed that a little bit. She said she thought Diddy at first was actually more interested in her friend Carrie Morgan, somebody that's been brought up a number of times during the testimony. And so as far as a lot of these messages, part of it, when I was sitting inside the gallery today, I was kind of like, where is this going? They were just reading text after text after text. It was bunches of pages, to the point I think the judge was kind of like, why are we... Right. We need to find like a better system of getting Cassie to read these messages so that way there's not a holdup, because it was just so much messages to the point where sometimes you were trying to connect the dots and wondering what's happening. And so the presentation was a little messy on my end, at least from what I could see, that I was just kind of like, where is this going? And there were so many points that I felt like they could talk about instead of these messages, but it seemed like they wanted to get in front of these messages, provide context that Cassie was actually in love, that at times that she had set up freak-offs even on her own, at times when even Diddy was sick. And so these messages were just all over the place, and at points I was just kind of like, where is this going? Because it really was so much. So I don't know how the jury felt listening to all of these today too.
Well, I'll tell you, it seemed to me they were really trying to home in on the idea that she was a willing participant in the freak-offs, and that the jury, are you really going to believe that she was essentially held captive against her will, didn't want to do any of this for years because she was under threat or coercion of Sean Combs, and highlighting messages like, I'm always ready to freak off, LOL, or baby, I want to FO so bad, that's going to help their narrative, and, saying she was the one who tried to set these up, or I believe there was a testimony she heated up the baby oil to be used in freak-offs. But there's a part of something that you said that I thought was really interesting, where it seems to me the defense was also trying to portray her as a jealous
Buy your tickets
while they are paying bills. Hi, sippers. As you come into the Tea Talk, please go ahead and like and remember to subscribe so you can always be up to date and sipping up to date live at Tea with Tanisha.
Jealous lover, right? And go to her motivations about why she would be going after Diddy now. Talk to us about what we learned today from the cross-examination about how they tried to portray her, maybe with other interests that she had, other relationships Diddy had. How did they try to portray her as somebody who was jealous and maybe had other motives for coming after, accusing Diddy now?
Well, they definitely brought up Kim Porter a couple of times today. Kim Porter is a big name because she is the mother of a few of Diddy's children, including the twins, including Christian. And so Cassie had said that she had learned that Diddy had actually left a freak off to go see Kim Porter. Again, by this time, she was still the mother of his children. She admitted to being a little bit jealous of Diddy's relationship with Kim. And she said especially this kind of happened during the holiday time because Diddy always spent the holidays with Kim Porter, with his children, something that, surprisingly, Cassie kind of mentioned that Diddy and Cassie didn't spend much time together with his children. Instead, the children were always with Kim Porter, and this was something that she was a little bit jealous of, that she wanted to be around him and see she wanted to be around him, be around his family and get all parts of him. And so, she did admit that she was a little jealous. We learned about Gina today. Gina is another central figure a little bit, and I've done a couple segments about Gina because Gina had previously gone on a podcast and spoken with a blogger talking about how her relationship with Diddy was, where she had alleged that Diddy was physically abusive with Gina. She had alleged that Diddy would refer to Cassie as the good one and Gina was the bad one. So for hearing from Cassie's perspective about the whole Gina situation, Gina was somebody that Gina was somebody that Diddy had seen while he was still with Cassie, somebody that was a focal point of from her perspective of the jealousy. And so Cassie had learned that Diddy was seeing Gina. Cassie learned about this because of social media. And she said that Diddy initially denied seeing Gina, but learned that he was still seeing her during a point where she had told him to stop seeing her. And she called Gina actually a main problem in their relationship. And so this was around the 2013 timeframe where Cassie said to Diddy, "You make me feel like a side piece. I'm happy with you no matter what," because Cassie thought she was the main girlfriend. She thought she was the only girlfriend. She didn't realize that he was seeing other people. She said that not even surprisingly, she said that he had actually lost his temper when Diddy thought Cassie was cheating, but then when Cassie confronted Diddy about his cheating, it was like, deny, deny, deny. Another point of contention between their relationship was that, the two were on and off for an 11-year period. Cassie says that Diddy learned that she was seeing other people, and she said that it would get scary if he would find out these situations and then enter and segue into Kid Cudi. Surprisingly, they didn't talk about the car arson at all today through it, but it was essentially to kind of talk about how Diddy was just so hurt and just so devastated by the fact that Cassie was seeing Kid Cudi behind his back. The defense was trying to point out that Diddy was the one who actually introduced Cassie and Kid Cudi to one another because he was trying to get them in the studio together to pretty much kind of advance her career. And this was around the 2011 time frame. Diddy found out about Cassie and Kid Cudi, and she had said yesterday under direct examination that he had found out while they were in a freak off. Cassie says it was actually her idea to use a burner phone because she didn't want Diddy to find out, again alluding to the fact that she was a little terrified and scared of what he could do, how he would respond. And she said that she began her relationship with Kid Cudi at a point where she and Diddy were actually off. They were on a break, but she began a relationship with Kid Cudi because the two were just enjoying each other's company. She said that she did admit that she was still doing freak-offs during this off period with Diddy, but then she would kind of go and hang out with Kid Cudi.
Hey, Queen.
Okay, long time paying some bills over there, y'all. let's sip this tea. What I was made to understand is that Kid Cudi was a part of Freak Offs, that Diddy had sought out Kid Cudi. He was interested in Kid Cudi. He liked the way he was cutting up in them streets, and he summoned Kid Cudi to come around with him and Cassie and Freak Off. And that's how Kid Cudi became introduced into Cassie and Diddy's world, right? And then, from the Freak Offs between them, Kid Cudi and Cassie, Diddy started seeing that them two started having a very, intimate attraction outside of the freaking offs. He could tell by the way they were looking at each other that they were starting to catch feelings for each other, right? And so one day Diddy was looking for Cassie and she wasn't nowhere to be found. And he found her with Kid Cudi at Kid Cudi's house. Now, that's what I came to be made to believe, the, involvement of Kid Cudi. And that's how Kid Cudi's car blew up, because Diddy was like, y'all hoes are not supposed to be frolicking without me. If y'all want to freak, y'all only ever freak with me and me knowing about y'all ass. That's how y'all get down. And if I find out otherwise, it's going to be some complications and repercussions behind that. It's going to be some punishment. And he found out that's what they were doing. And he allegedly blew up Kid Cudi's car, had his car blown up. Okay, let's get back into the tea. We are sipping from Law and Crime, catching up on some updates. Drop those teacups in the chat and let the tea sippers know you are here with your teacups ready to be full of some of this hot tea. Diddy's been hot all week in these trial vlogs. Girl, been hot.
One corporate client and just
keep it going.
Meanwhile, while all this is going on, she and Diddy are still on a break, and she again said that it was scary if he had found out. She was asked if Diddy knew that Cassie and Diddy were on a break, and she said that I don't know. And then that's when the cross got a little awkward because they were trying to kind of figure out a way to kind of ask these questions. And I had mentioned this during the lunch hour today, that it was just a little weird to kind of see this cross-examination around this point, because Estevao was essentially just kind of adding or concurring with Tenny Garagos, who was sitting at the defense table. I think a lot of us were kind of questioning why Estevao was the one doing the line of questioning. We understand obviously that the defense was going to use a female to ask Cassie these questions under cross, but I was just kind of like, why is she conferring so much? It seemed like she didn't know what to ask next. And so that was an interesting point that I had seen while in the courtroom today. As far as just the Kid Cudi relationship goes, I had mentioned this just yesterday, that when Diddy had found out, he got a bottle or a wine bottle opener, put it in between her finger, it's in between his fingers, and lunged at her. But Cassie said that he had made no contact when he had lunged at her with the bottle opener. She said her relationship with Kid Cudi the entire time was just about a month, and she got back together with Diddy. She was asked, was the relationship offensive to Diddy because of Kid Cudi's stature in the music industry? And Cassie was kind of like, well, yeah, because Diddy wasn't cheating with other celebrities. And Cassie responded, I don't really know. The Kid Cudi relationship hurt Diddy, according to the defense, because Diddy was the one who introduced them, put them in the studio together. And so the defense was saying that Diddy brought up Kid Cudi a lot after they got back together, and especially would become angry over the holidays, recalling the Kid Cudi relationship, because this was around the Christmas time frame of 2011. Cassie had mentioned by New Year's, the two being Kid Cudi and Cassie were already broken up. Diddy accused Cassie of having another relationship with another man while shooting a movie, and that movie was Honey 3, and this was in South Africa. I bring back the People and Places list that was talked about during jury selection. Why? Because this was when Michael B. Jordan was named, and Diddy was apparently a little annoyed by the relationship that Cassie and Michael B. Jordan were having together while they were shooting this movie. And Cassie had even said around this time that she and Diddy weren't even together when she went off to shot the movie. She broke things off. Why? Because she had seen a picture that he was still with Gina. She was sent a video about that while Diddy and Gina were seen at Revolt Fest together, because somebody thought that that was actually Cassie. And so Cassie had sent kind of a nasty message.
Every month, this Airbnb
Message to Diddy's entire staff that she thought were family, staff that she had thought had her back. But then when seeing these pictures, knowing that this was a point of contention in their relationship, she said she got upset about it because she thought the staff was her family and thought they were kind of in on this. And so those were a lot of the focus of just the other people who kind of played a role into just the tension that was displayed in the relationship between Cassie and Diddy.
And yeah, they questioned, it seemed to me, a lot of her motivations. They brought up the November 2023 lawsuit to suggest you knew this was going to ruin his career, right? Now, there was a large section of the testimony regarding drug use, and I couldn't tell if it was to suggest that, hey, Combs isn't responsible for your drug use. You know, one of the things he's charged with, right, is alleged he used drugs to make victims more compliant, drug trafficking, one of the underlying crimes of racketeering. And I'm curious how they had that whole conversation regarding drugs. Was it just to suggest, you know, she had a drug issue herself that was her own problem? Or was it also to suggest, hey, he had a drug problem and that explains a lot of his behavior, which if I understood it correctly, is interesting, because I'm not sure I quite understood where they were going with that. I have an idea of where they were going with that, maybe to explain away some of his actions that they originally said were indefensible. So talk to us about what we know about all the drug use. What was the conversation about that? What was she questioned about?
Yeah, the drug use was also pretty prominent, especially during the afternoon portion. She was questioned, and I feel like the questioning along the lines, to your point, Jesse, was trying to paint her out to be kind of this drug addicted person during the time frame. They were questioning her. Did she use drugs when she was with Diddy? Did she use drugs without Diddy? Did she use drugs when she was with her friends? Oh, do you not remember these questions or these answers because you were addicted to drugs around that time period? And so there was a point where Cassie had said that there was a time that Diddy didn't want Cassie to do drugs, even though she still was, or even though that Diddy still was. The defense says Diddy didn't want you hanging out with a certain friend. The friend's name was Bonna. Bonna is also a pretty important name into this story. I'd covered her when she had filed her civil claim against Diddy. Bonna was allegedly hung outside of a balcony by Diddy when he was going through a rage period, something that Cassie had talked about.
Okay, so that's the girl, okay? Because we heard about Wale being hung out over a balcony behind, maybe looking at Cassie. Diddy thought maybe he saw Wale, the artist, look at Cassie or say something that to Cassie that he thought sounded like it was like, you know, attractiveness there between Wale to Cassie. So it was a girl named Raleigh, something like that he also hung out of a window. That's crazy.
Heard direct testimony to yesterday, and the defense was trying to say, well, you and Bonna, you guys did a lot of drugs together, and Cassie at this time was saying, you know, she was doing opioids. Meanwhile, Bonna, according to Cassie, provided these drugs like opioids. Meanwhile, Bonna did cocaine, according to Cassie. Cassie had said that Diddy was pretty explosive when he found out that Cassie was taking his drugs, and Diddy had actually contacted drug dealers not to give drugs to Cassie at this point.
So he knew Cassie was well into her addiction with him, right, to the drugs, and he would, if she wouldn't perform or behave in a certain way that he knew, you know, she needed the drugs, he would cut her off from being able to get any drugs. So essentially she would detox in a very hard way. Wild. That is so maniacally cruel. Diddy is an evil somebody, girl. Evil.
Defense was trying to paint it out that Diddy was just worried about her health and that she was taking a lot of drugs including ketamine, GHB, MDMA, ecstasy. They talked about the Cannes Film Festival trip where Diddy had squeezed Cassie's leg so hard that a bruise appeared on her whenever she was taking pictures.
Okay, so you just hard crash her. You knew she was highly, heavily addicted to drugs, and then you completely stop her. Like when people get off drugs, they wean themselves off drugs, right? If you're addicted to very hard drugs and addicted, like you're doing them every day, you can't live without them. You must have them. As soon as you wake up in the morning, you live to have to get high, right? Type of shit, or you won't function. You'll be sick. You'll be on your deathbed. You wean people off drugs with like Suboxone, naltrexone. You know what I mean? There are drugs that will help you wean off of drugs, essentially. It's like a drug blocker. It'll give you a little bit of the dopamine that you need, but it'll also block you from wanting to ever feel the crave and the urge to want to use drugs. It's called Suboxone, naltrexone, things like that. This is crazy. And the stuff that they take when you are addicted to is it methamphetamine or heroin? I know Suboxone is for heroin. I don't know. Y'all drop it in the T-chat what it is, because I can't quite remember. Let me look it up. Hold on, y'all. Let me look up what the drug is that you wean yourself off of when you're weaning off of drugs. You can take Zola, Wellbutrin, Lexapro. Hold on, weaning off hard drugs. Hydro. No, that's not one. Hold on. Holiday. Suboxone. Okay, that's one of. So like it's called tapering, right? Tapering is a good method. It's a straightforward method. It involves gradually reducing the amount of a drug an individual takes. In many cases, the substance consumed is slowly decreased weekly until the individual can stop using completely without experiencing unmanageable withdrawal symptoms. Okay. So essentially that is what Diddy should have done. But like I told y'all a couple lies back, Diddy's not the brightest crayon in the box. Okay. So just because you have a lot of money don't make you smart. It don't make you know what to do with it. It don't make you know how to treat people. It doesn't make you anything but a nigga that has a lot more money than most people. So it's called tapering. It involves gradually reducing the amount of a drug an individual takes. In many cases, the substance consumed is slowly decreased weekly until that individual can stop using completely without experiencing unmanageable withdrawal symptoms. Okay, so that essentially is what Diddy should have done. You would think that Diddy would have some type of, professional doctor, somebody around him that would keep his secrets, but would also still keep it 100 with him and tell him, like, you just can't take that. You just can't stop Cassie from using. She's been using for 11 years, every day, nonstop, some days, most days. You have to gradually taper her off of these drugs. But that goes back to love not being just a word, it's an action. So what Diddy was telling Cassie he loved her. Did he show it? No.
On red carpets, and he had squeezed her leg so hard, according to Cassie, because she had taken drugs from him. And then there was an interesting point that was talked about in 2013 where the defense was saying that Diddy overdosed on drugs after a freak off. Diddy was hosting a party at a Playboy mansion.
They should have just let Diddy do what he did. Okay, I'm sure they probably overdosed a lot. If they were on drugs nonstop daily for years, I'm sure they overdosed a lot.
take him into the hospital, and that's when Cassie had learned that he had overdosed. There were a lot of points just throughout her testimony today where, again, the defense was trying to ask, do you remember when this happened? And she would respond, I don't necessarily recall. And then the defense would ask, is it because you were on drugs during this period? And she was very forthcoming. You know, I did have a problem. She did try to seek out help a couple of times, and then she just kind of went back to, again, that same kind of lifestyle. But to her point during her direct testimony, she was saying that she used these drugs to cope with just having to do these hundreds and hundreds of freak-offs, some that would last for days at a time, some that could last for a long period of time. But I thought it was interesting, the whole drug conversation today, mainly because they even discussed withdrawing from drugs, especially because of the amount of drugs that both Cassie and both Diddy were taking, and even kind of insinuating that the reason that everything had happened at the 2016 happened at the Intercontinental Hotel in 2016 was because just a few days earlier than that, Diddy was sick, and they were saying, baby.
This is the pink salt recipe that took me from 107.
Okay, we're sipping tea from Diddy, wrapping up the first week of the trial. Cass has been on the stand all week. We've had some escorts, y'all. We've had some security officers. It's been some tea to sip over here down to the Diddy trial. New York, New York.
The defense was trying to paint it as Diddy was sick because he was going through withdrawals, and that made him agitated, that made him irritated. Meanwhile, at the same point, they were trying to say Cassie was insinuating doing these freak-offs, kind of making it seem like she was asking for what had happened to her, as far as just him being so aggressive and violent with her, because again, we've all seen that surveillance video. But I definitely think the defense was trying to paint it as Diddy was going through withdrawals at this point, and that's why he became agitated and irritated, and that's why he had attacked her on that day. It's something that, you know, it shocked everyone when we had seen that video. Still shocking seeing it inside that courtroom. They didn't show it today during the cross-examination, but they definitely...
I'm sure Diddy was out of his mind, a raging monster. Probably some shit that you never want to see, okay, was Diddy. Like, I'm sure that's Diddy.
We're talking about the 2016 incident, especially towards the end of the day today.
Yeah, I don't quite buy that one, right? The idea he was going through withdrawal kind of explains what happened in 2016. Didn't you say in the opening statement that video was indefensible? I feel like they might have stretched a little bit too much there. But look, the text messages, the conversations, communications, not ideal for a prosecution case. Not the end of the case, but not ideal for a prosecution case. So it's kind of a mixed bag in terms of, you know, how much the cross-examination helped the defense. I will say, I thought it was interesting, real quick on this, Elizabeth. Didn't they say, hey, you know how the prosecution was insinuating Diddy had all control over every aspect of her life, including her appearance? Well, the defense, didn't they seem to suggest, no, there might have been legitimate feedback he was giving, right?
Yeah, definitely. They were trying to paint Diddy kind of talking about his stature within the industry, essentially saying that, you know, Diddy was somebody who had a lot of reign in terms of the culture. A lot of people sought out his advice. A lot of people went to him for fashion advice. So they were trying to make it seem that, you know, Cassie, from her perspective, was saying that Diddy controlled every single aspect and manipulated every single aspect of her entire life. Meanwhile, the defense was trying to say, I mean, look, it wasn't just you going to Diddy for fashion advice. It was other people who were interested in taking fashion advice from him because, again, of just how big his stature was at the time. They were saying that he did so much for the culture and that he, you know, started a line like the Sean John line, and that was a very popular fashion line. And so the defense was, again, trying to make it seemed that this wasn't manipulation. He didn't control what you wore, but you had asked him, you know, do I look good in this? What do you think of this outfit? And so, yes, to your point, Jesse, the defense was definitely trying to poke those holes into where they needed to poke them to kind of make the argument that this wasn't manipulation, this wasn't coercion, and this was something that two people just do normally in a relationship together.
So that brings us now to scheduling, right? So we are not done with the cross-examination. It's going to continue tomorrow, but Judge Arun Subramanian not happy about this, right? So two things I want to end on here. Talk to us about what the whole conversation was in court about actually scheduling Cassandra Ventura's testimony. And I believe we may have an answer as to who is going to be the next witness, who is a major witness in this case. Talk to us about it.
I definitely think so. So during the lunch hour, I was talking about how the defense was saying that they needed an entire day of more cross-examination to a point that they could carry this all the way out into Monday. This was something that the government was visibly annoyed about because they were like, you know, we had this scheduling talks for weeks, not even just weeks, but months. And they were trying to make the argument, they being the government, that they had known all along that Cassie needed to be off the stand by the end of the week. So they didn't appreciate that the defense was trying to drag this over into Monday. And so they came up with a solution, essentially, and just that they believe that the cross-examination beginning tomorrow will take up half the day, should wrap around the lunch hour. So still a few more hours of cross-examination to go through. As far as the redirect goes, the government affirmed today that the redirect may take no more than about 30 minutes or less. And so it looks like Cassie will finally be off the stand tomorrow if everything goes as planned. You just never know sometimes with the trial how long that these things can go. But yes, another big witness is being teed up kind of as we speak. And the government asked today, do we even need to bring in other witnesses tomorrow being Friday? And the judge was like, yes, get your other witnesses ready. And one of those big witnesses I can definitely say is going to be Don Richard, somebody who had filed civil claims against
Now,
Diddy.
I thought we had heard that Don Richards was not testifying against Diddy. Didn't he pay her off? Didn't Don Richard pay? Or didn't Diddy pay Don Richard not to testify against him? Because I heard she was to some things she said that she saw, experienced, especially like during making the band, things like that. Isn't Don Richards a part of the Danity Kane group that Diddy put together? Okay. I saw her in an interview. I tried to upload it. It kept getting all like, glitchy, and they try to report my channel, but it's all fair use on YouTube. Anything you put on YouTube or out like that people can share, stream, is fair usage of it. I'm not just airing it, I'm reviewing it. Okay, so I got all that strike shit taken off my channel. Nonetheless, shout out to the channel that I did do a review on her her conversation she had rather with somebody on the podcast. So not for nothing. It was, just a lot that she said she went through. However, she said she rocked with Diddy. And I believe that was after she got paid by Diddy when she did this interview. Because at first she was rearing up with a lawyer. She had a lawyer, Allbrook or Blood or somebody. Y'all know the white lady I'm talking about with the blonde hair. She's been outside. I think that was her. One of the women attorneys was going to represent Don Richardson in a suit against Diddy too. And then Diddy gave her some coin and she sat down and talked about some of the things that were going on. But she also said that no matter what had happened, she still had Diddy's back then at that point. That's Don Richardson. So now is Don up to testify? This is crazy.
A number of years. She had worked for not even a number of years, for decades even. Somebody that Diddy himself, when the civil suit was filed, called her a friend. And
well, I know Diddy feeling crazy. He is feeling crazy. He's like, I'm paying people to shut the fuck up. And the courts are telling them, no, I don't care what he gave you. If I subpoena you, you get in here and you testify to what we need from you in a testimony against Diddy and be a witness against Diddy.
Essentially said that he was disappointed that she had even.
It's a dirty, dirty game. It's a dirty, dirty game. Okay. That's got to be a crazy feeling. Diddy's paying people to shut up. Like, I'm pretty sure he didn't think Cassie would get to this level. They're here. Okay. They are here now. And he paid Cassie a lot of millions to shut up.
against him. And so the prosecution said today that she would be one of the next witnesses to be testifying against
Don Richardson. I know I heard through the grapevine that Diddy paid Don to shut up because she came out with Gloria Allred, somebody, right? One of the women attorneys, and was gonna sue Diddy. And Diddy was like, no need here. And she said, okay. She went on a couple podcast tours talking about it. And she said she was rocking with Diddy. That's the last I heard about it. So this is the first time I'm sipping some tea about Don coming back into the, case against Diddy to testify against Diddy.
Diddy. And so it'll be interesting to see kind of how that'll all play out. And so she should be one of the next witnesses if she's not direct.
Elizabeth, I don't know if you have the answer to this. I'm not entirely sure. Is Dawn Richard one of the named alleged victims in this case? I say named. They're all using pseudonyms, except for Cassandra Ventura to be one other. Do we know if she's one of the alleged victims in this case that makes up sex trafficking or racketeering or anything like that?
I'm not necessarily sure, and that's mainly because when the prosecution was giving their opening statements, they had talked about the alleged victims, one being Cassie, one being Jane, that we presume to be alleged victim number 2, and then they were even talking about Mia, somebody who had worked for Diddy for a while, somebody that, according to the prosecution, Diddy allegedly sexually assaulted Mia while the two had worked together because she was somebody on her staff. So I'm not entirely sure if Dawn Richard is one of the victims that have been talked about, especially in the superseding indictment. But I definitely think she'll also be a very key witness in kind of piecing together her decades-long friendship that she had with Diddy, as well as just kind of how he was, even just in a business aspect and a professional aspect as well, too.
And I think she was a witness to some of the allegations of Cassandra Ventura. And if I'm right about that, that goes to further corroboration. So it's not just the security guard who testified. It's not just the male performer who testified. Now you'd have Dawn Richard, who I think I'm right? I think she had testified. I think she had alleged before that she witnessed alleged abuse of Cassie at the hands of Sean Combs.
Yep. Yeah, she did. In her civil claim, she alleged that she had seen Cassie with visible injuries on herself. She had said to Cassie that, according to her civil claim, that she had just wanted Cassie to be safe, essentially. She had said that she saw one instance where she was at Diddy's home. Cassie was cooking breakfast and Diddy threw a hot frying pan at her head. And so I definitely think she will be another central figure in kind of verifying Cassie's claims, especially the physical abuse that she endured. Not so much I believe about, the freak-offs and that extent, but definitely as far as the physical abuse goes, I think she'll be another key witness to kind of verify Cassie's claims.
And that would make sense she didn't know about it, because what we heard today was Cassandra Ventura was not very open about these freak-offs until she ultimately filed her lawsuit. Elizabeth Milner, thank you so much, as always, giving us play-by-play details.
All right, that was play-by-play details, y'all. We are live this Friday morning with Tanisha Talks Tees. We're talking all Diddy, all week long. Trial started Monday. We gave y'all some juror information. Jurors have been selected. There are
Thanks for watching. Remember to show your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing. It's a blessing. Keep your teacups filled and ready for my next upload. Until then, stay inspired and remember, always stay dipping.